Hello, I'm Stan Stalnaker with Hub Culture, and we're at Climate Week NYC. Joining me right now is Mark Way, who's the head of sustainability for the Americas for SwissRe, one of the largest insurance companies in the world and a key player in pricing the risk around climate. So, Mark, tell me a little bit about your involvement with Climate Week NYC and where you guys see things going forward from here.
Well, I mean, our involvement, we celebrate our 5th year of involvement at the same time as Climate Week celebrates its 5th year. We have been in this initiative from the beginning. I think, as we heard, we've heard from Climate Group in the past, this began as a one-off, but has kind of snowballed each year. It got bigger and bigger, and now we see this as one of the major climate events on the calendar
globally.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the people who attend, I guess it's fair to say that at the beginning we were looking for people to attend and doing some convincing, and now that is not the case anymore. So there's been a definite progression. And with regards to your question about where this should go in the future, we just hope it gets bigger and bigger, and that snowball keeps rolling.
Well, it seems like this year everybody was in the room, so to speak. You had everybody from the former Prime Minister Tony Blair to Richard Branson to the head of the World Bank, the UN, everybody in one place talking about these climate-related issues during a very important week in New York. With regard to SwissRe in particular, how are you guys addressing and approaching the subject of climate and climate change?
I think the easiest way to explain that is if you look at the strategy we've defined, which has been in place for quite some time now. It has 4 key components. And one, I guess is not surprising being in the industry we're in, is really to continually enhance our understanding of what climate risk means. What could the economic impacts be? How could it affect our business? How could it affect communities in which we do business? The second one is on the other side of the coin for a reinsurer. It's an old cliche, but risk is our business. So what are the product development opportunities to help clients, be they governments, be they companies, be they NGOs even, what kind of products do we need to develop to help them manage this risk better going forward? Then we have an advocacy component, so exactly using platforms like Climate Week. And then finally we have our own footprint. How can we minimize our carbon footprint? The company's actually been carbon neutral since 2007.
Well, that was early. I mean, many companies weren't even thinking about being carbon neutral that early.
No, I mean, for us it was, we're fully transparent about this. We're not a massive carbon emitter, so it's easier for us to do that than it would be for an oil company, obviously. But nevertheless, it's a credibility issue. If you're talking about these issues, if you're seeking change, then you really have to have your own house in order. You really have to show that you're actually walking the talk, as they like to say.
Let's talk about risk for a second. So you guys are in the business of pricing and evaluating risk and communicating what those risks are to both your client set and the community around you. How are you guys pricing risk and thinking about risk for climate? What are the components that you guys are looking at, and how is that translating into products for you?
Well, I think one of the things we need to bear in mind, and this is something which often gets confused, is that we model a lot of risk, but we model losses rather than climate. So what we're really looking, because the vast majority of our products have a duration of a year, we're really looking to price that risk for the next year. Having said that, when it comes to research projects, then we look way beyond 1 year. We look out to 2030, 2050. In fact, the 2050s, as we recently did with New York City in the study where SwissRe provided the risk analysis for that study. So we're really looking to see what we can learn about what is coming down the road and use that as a tool, if you like, to explain and try to convince wider society that we need to do something about this risk. So if we can really show, and I think this is something which the industry can do very well, is because we can price risk, we can estimate the costs that a more severe climate might mean for a certain region. And in doing that, that's a powerful message, if you like, to decision makers to say, look, this is not a game. This is not something which is trivial. This is something which is likely to increase this trend towards higher losses as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very pragmatic approach to very complex changes, right? And being able to attach a price tag to it must make people sit up and take notice.
I think so. I mean, I think we can talk about these issues forever. Some of them become very abstract, and that's confusing, I think, to most people. So if we can just say, well, we expect the average cost to go from 1 billion to 5 billion for this reason, then that's a number, you know, and it's an estimation, it's not a perfect science, but it allows us to sort of put some kind of context around the topic which people can grasp more easily.
Right.
You know, if we're talking about 450 parts per million, that's a tough one for most people to understand. If we're talking about 1 billion to 5 billion or whatever, that's more easy to understand.
Yeah. So before we finish up, tell me, with regard to SwissRe's future perspective and your look outward, where do you guys see hope in terms of all of this? Is it really just about shifting the policy, or do you see technology playing a role in maybe mitigating some of the impacts? Where are you most hopeful as we look forward?
I mean, I think the answer is it's all of the above. So it's basically all of those things have to come in play. I'm hopeful that if the incentives are right, then industry will be able to come into this space with much more force than it's been able to up till now. Products taking the commercial approach in a responsible way is really, I think, going to drive the solutions we need to find, be that in our industry or be that in other industries. The companies, SwissRe is already sort of at the cutting edge in the context of insurance by looking at how you can look at these risks in completely different ways, how you can take learnings from one area of the world and apply it to another area of the world in the context of climate risk. So that would be, you know, our contribution to sort of innovation in that area, and we can do that. There is a demand there. We just got to think about these things in different ways. We've got to not think about clients purely being, you know, you or I or corporates. The clients can be governments, clients can be multilaterals, clients can be literally villages in Africa. And if we start thinking about these issues in a different way and taking different approaches to deal with them, then I think we have a real chance to contribute to providing some kind of financial security in a more severe climate. But that's just our approach. It's going to take, you know, a lot of different approaches from industry, from the public sector. The public sector has to make investments to enable these risks to remain manageable in the future. They should have to set the regulatory incentives to encourage investment in these areas. But if that happens, then companies like our own will certainly have, you know, more to go at.
Right. So you need signals, and you also need basically a kind of new approach to looking at these issues.
Yeah, but that's innovation. I mean, they're not following the path we've always taken. I mean, the approach we've taken in the past is valid and will continue, but we've also continually got to look beyond the box, as they say, to see what else there is we can do.
Great. Thank you very much, Mark.
Pleasure.
This is Mark Way from SwissRe, and I'm Stan Stalnaker from Hub Culture at Climate Week NYC.
Thanks.